the African continent. Well, joining us to discuss this, we have Bolu Michael-Biyi, a foreign policy analyst. Bolu Michael-Biyi is going to have you on the news tonight. Let's look at the various political activities, and we look at them on Africa this year. What for you has been the highlight or the high point?
Well, the high point, I wouldn't say there's as many as the low points, because I think the majority of the most news headlines have been the negative. However, there's still a couple of things to celebrate. That's the peaceful transition of power, for example, in countries like Sierra Leone and Liberia, which could, which speaks well to the potential of the continent, that we can actually hold our own elections and run it peacefully, and see to the peaceful transition of power from one administration to another.
Aside from this high point, there's no doubt that there are lessons to be learned from the political scene in Africa in 2023. Which ones, will be unforgettable for you for years to come?
Yeah, for me, it would be the ouster of the Bongo family. I didn't see that coming, because they're so strong. The family has been there for a long time, since independence, and they've kind of like cemented their tentacles all over the government, and also seeing that, oh wow, this Bongo family is off. It's quite. It's surprising. It's quite surprising, and it's good to see that the country can actually have a breath of fresh air, and see new faces, and hopefully they can leverage on this political change, and turn around the country in a positive way.
Interesting. What about the electoral, commissions in each country in Africa? Because elections are a big part of the year. In Nigeria, in Liberia, in Madagascar, in Egypt, and other countries. Looking at DR Congo as well. Could the electoral commissions in each country have done better in the elections conducted this year? Which ones, for you, would you point your finger at and say, hey, you could have done better?
Well, I think there's always room for improvement. And then generally, I think within Africa, we're still kind of crude in our processes. Even though we try to use technology, we don't seem to have that technical know-how to handle them. And I just want to pick on Nigeria, as a case study. There's still a lot of issues surrounding the electronic transition of election results, and there's still certain policy issues, logistic issues, delays, and policy issues such as having election petition a tribunal to be sorted before the swearing in of the president, and then the electoral commission heads being appointed by the government in power can lead to a conflict of interest. So there's lots of policy issues, and using Nigeria as a case study, we still have a long way to go in policy and in practice. So it's important that we invest in the democratic institutions, civil societies, the parliament, and judiciary, and ensure that these bodies are actually doing their job unhindered or without interference.
Oh. Well, will things ever change? I mean, as we look forward to 2024, look at the coups that happened this year. It seems like we are revolving in a cycle. Look at where we're coming from. One would have thought we won't have coups again in Africa. It seems like everything is just going around. We'll come back to the same point. Looking forward to 2024 and even beyond, will anything change? And what can the continent do to get it right in politics?
Lots of elections. We had a couple of elections this year, and for these countries that won't be having elections in 2024, maybe in another 4 years would be an opportunity or 4 or 5 years would be an opportunity for them to actually take the learnings of this year's election to the next. But for countries that will be having elections, it's an opportunity to learn from other countries and do the right thing. I think despite the fact that we've moved at snail speed, we've still been able to make some progress in terms that, okay, we are now having a new, not too young to wrong bill, for example, Nigeria, and then incorporating technology into a system, which was not the case in for example, 1999. So we've moved forward a bit, but there's room for improvement. We need to invest more in voter education and registration, the logistics process and dispute resolution mechanisms have to be in place. We must ensure as much as possible the independence and impartiality of the Electoral Commission and the judiciary. So there's still a lot of work to do, and it's just the political will to make them happen that seems to be missing. If we can have a government that will be committed to making things happen, that would be great for the continent.
And I want to thank you so much, Bolu Michael-Biyi, foreign policy analyst, for joining us tonight on the news.
My pleasure. Thank you.
Much.